Okay, wonderful. Yes, indeed, let's start. We are on top of the hour, so welcome everyone to this first call to discuss the shaping of one of the main topics, main topic 1, which is still under the preliminary title, Impact of the War. And this call is actually a new element in our program building process. So we are also entering, let's say, new territory in terms of building the sessions. But that was a direct outcome of our community planning meeting that we had earlier this year in February, I guess. And it was a suggestion that came from the community actually to how to approach the topics and how to ensure that the 2 days of EuroDIG or the 3 days of EuroDIG are used in the most efficient manner without having too much of redundancy in the discussions, and a good cooperation between the sessions which in a, let's say, which in a focus area or which in a cluster. I would like to share my screen with you to have a look at the consolidated program, which is out since a couple of days. Is the program visible? Okay. So you will see that the focus areas this year are very general, but they translate directly from the title, which is Risk, Resilience, Hope. Or full title, Internet in Troubled Times, Risk, Resilience, Hope. So these 3 areas are the focus areas that we would like to approach. And then we identified that there are 3 so-called main topics. And to shape these 3 main topics, we will go the same structure as last year, that we divide them into 3 subtopics that will all be discussed in the main auditorium with a short break to change the microphones and to change the seats. But the big question now is what are the main topics and how should they be shaped? We have already a very preliminary and very rough structure on what could be the discussion, but we would like to hear from you how you would see those main topics to be shaped. The first very general idea is about geopolitical neutrality of the global internet. The background is that there was a very good session at the global IGF in Addis Abeba in end of last year, and that discussion might be continued at EuroDIG on a European level this year. That was one idea. There are also 2 proposals that are related to geopolitical neutrality that should, of course, be or can be part of this discussion as well. Then under the point of resilience, of course, it's the resilience of the infrastructure, but there are other aspects of resilience, for instance, also resilience of informing the community, keeping up broadcasters and these kind of things. And then there was a last suggestion, which was also based on one of the proposals, which speaks about the EU candidate states and their integration. But that is very vague at the moment and also only underlined with one proposal, while at infrastructure resilience we have some more. EuroDIG, since you are very much knowledgeable, or let me put it the other way, since you are a big advocate for this topic on impact of the war, would you like to add something to what I just said?
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, Yrjö Länsipuro speaking. Thank you. Yeah, I felt very strongly that at the EuroDIG this year we have to have this topic, the impact of the war, the biggest war we have had in Europe since the Second World War. and its impact on the internet. Actually, it just so happens that right now there is a virtual discussion organized by RIPE NCC on the same topic, and so it shows that it's something that people feel is important. I think that to discuss this topic, we need also first of all, we need voices from the trenches, from the ground, not only a theoretical discussion, but we need people from Ukraine. I expect that Oksana Prihodko, who has made a proposal about this, will join our meeting after she is free from the NCC RIPE meeting. There are also other possibilities to get what is felt on the ground. The infrastructure part is, of course, important in the sense that there are many actors involved in this, including ITU, which has promised to help in the reconstruction of what has been destroyed in Ukraine. And last but not least, the geopolitical neutrality of the global interest. I think that is a very basic principal question, which was debated at IGS, as Sandra said. How far can we have a neutral ground? How far can the internet, the infrastructure of the internet, be neutral when all the other connections are broken, when sanctions are becoming more and more important, and so on and so forth? So I stop here and hope we have a good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yrjö. And I would like to open the floor to find out about, first of all, your ideas on the structuring of this main topic. And secondly, I would also appreciate if you let us know very concretely to which organized team you might be able to contribute to, because this shall be a second purpose of this call, that we really also start with the real work and get the organizing teams up and running. So I open the floor and invite you to speak up. You can raise your hand. You can just unmute, start talking as you wish. Olga Kurylyuk. Olga, please go ahead.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to support that. I agree that this is a very important topic to be addressed and to be included in the agenda. I'm not sure regarding this the third subtopic, as it's important, but again, if it's probably if it's possible to get proper representation for that one, but since it's based only around one proposal, then probably it would require some more work around it to make it to bring it to proper shape and form. But from my side, I wanted to say that as the voice from the ground, I would be ready to join the organizing team for the first subtopic, and actually I would be willing to speak at that session.
Thank you very much, Olga. And maybe we should add that Olga is or was the chair or the executive committee chair of the Southeastern European Dialogue on Internet Governance. And that, of course, she is very much affected from the war as well. So thank you for joining, Olga. I really appreciate that. Rainer, by the way, can you take notes of who is signing up for which team so that we can put that in our list as well?
I will try.
Thank you. Okay, who else would like to speak?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Because yes. I cannot see faces anymore, but okay, glad to hear you can hear. Just a quick introduction from my side. I work for the Council of Europe. My name is Giulia Lucchese. We have been very committed lately to look into this topic, so it's absolutely relevant, and we're glad to see it in the EuroDIG program so prominently. We did make a proposal that would be linked to the spread of hate speech and disinformation in the aftermath of the war, but also actually somehow in if we may say so, in preparation to the war and the impact that it has had on multiple levels and the role that internet intermediaries could play in this specific scenario. The Council of Europe would be very much willing to take a role in subtopic 2 with our proposal number 26. I say this because I do not see it amongst the numbers that are indicated in there, but maybe you want to take it into consideration, and of course we can act as a speaker or provide speakers for that subtopic.
Thank you very much, Julia. Yes, and indeed, proposal 26 from the Council of Europe is still or was relocated, and there was a discussion between our team and the Council of Europe's team. So yes, we should add 26 to subtopic 2 indeed, and we very much appreciate that you have the flexibility to contribute to this topic as well. Any other hands raised? Maybe Olivier, since you switched on the camera already and you were one of those, or actually the main focal point of organizing a really good session at the Global IGF, and you posted the link to that session in the chat already. Maybe can I give the floor to you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sandra. Olivier Crépin-Leblanc speaking. I was indeed going to. I just waited for everyone else to speak. The session that we had as the Dynamic Coalition on Core Internet Values was focusing specifically on the risk of fragmentation and the risks towards the internet, on politicizing the internet with and based on the requests that were made to basically cut off the domain name servers and other infrastructure that was leading to Russia. So we had a number of very interesting speakers, and among them several that are based in Europe. And I'll just read through them. One is Bastian Goslings from RIPE NCC, as they are one of the main actors in the allocation of IP addresses and so on in Europe. One was Bill Woodcock, who is with the Packet Clearing House. I believe, I don't know actually whether he's located on the US side or somewhere in Europe. There was Iria Puriosa from the International Research Advisory Council at the Peace Building Institute, the TODA Institute in Washington, D.C. She brought a sort of more Latin American and view to this. And then we had Veronika Datzer, who was a policy advisor in the German Parliament, but she was also an envoy to NATO some while ago. She might be worth perhaps having on this as a link between the last session and the session that we're looking at here. And of course we had Vint Cerf, but he is an American and we are in Europe, so I'm not sure we want to have Vint to opine on this, apart from of course perhaps mentioning that Google is pretty neutral in these affairs. The consensus that was found was that imposing sanctions, internet sanctions, was a very risky thing because it involved so many different actors. The question was who was going to make the actual decision and who was going to enforce those decisions. And the organizations that today run the internet appear to be unwilling to act as some kind of a Cerberus, enforcers for things which have very, very high political implications. But there definitely is a lot of discussion that needs to be undertaken here. And of course, as the situation moves on, every 6 months things are very different. It would be very, very interesting if we were to continue at least part of that conversation here. That's why I'm happy to help out wherever I can on this one. I'm not saying we should take the same panelists. I think we should have maybe one or two, or maybe certainly RIPE would need to be part of this, but then the others, it's really up to us. And of course, the fragmentation is only one aspect of the geopolitical implications that we have here, as we mentioned. Thank you.
Olivier, one question, since fragmentation is also mentioned in the title, preliminary title of main topic 2, do you see overlaps with this main topic 2? Because what we should really avoid, and that's why we are doing this exercise here, is that we do not duplicate the discussion. So when we speak about risks and geopolitical neutrality of the internet, does this already, and that's a question, does this already too much eat into a discussion on internet fragmentation as such?
It wouldn't, because the geopolitical neutrality discussion should be really about the politics of the internet and how politics affect the internet in a more general way. The fragmentation is only but a consequence of the politics and of the actions that are taken because of the politics. But there is at present there are at present unwilling participants in between the politics and the fragmentation itself. What I mean is that the technical institutions that run the internet are not willing to take on the position of enforcers. So infrastructure resilience, indeed, it has to be, but it's only a consequence of the politics, and it's not proven yet that something like that would happen unless there is a definite shift in the actors that are providing that collaboration, if you want, remembering that the internet is a network of networks, so there is a collaboration between the different actors. Does that answer your question, or does it make it even more, you know, everything is interlinked somehow, but if we were to focus specifically on the politics, and I'm not saying policy, politics is the thing, geopolitics, then that would really make it very different, and we could then move from the geopolitics, move on and saying, well, what are the consequences of those geopolitics after that? Thanks.
Olivier, thank you. At least for me, that really made it very clear where the difference between these two topics is. So thank you very much.
By the way, it's just a proposal, yeah. I'm here in the spirit of dialogue. I don't want to mandate anything. I'm just saying that's my feeling. I'm sure others have other ideas, and please, may this not let anyone say, "Oh, I had an idea, but now I'm not sure I want to propose this idea." Please, may everyone propose their ideas, and I'm not going to die in a ditch if it's not like this.
Yes, and I forward this invitation to everyone else to let us know what your ideas are. As Olivier rightly said, we are here to brainstorm and put all the ideas on the table based on what we have already, but nothing is carved in stone at the moment. And also, I would like to come back what Olga said, that the subtopic under hope might not be the appropriate one, because that is also still something we could challenge and discuss. So please, just raise your hand or your voice. Mark, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Hi, everybody. I'm new to this issue, really, so I wanted to join this discussion, really, to learn about it. And it's good to know that RIPE NCC are holding consultations and discussions about impacts of war in Europe, as Eurio reported to us, and Olivier's comments very helpful. I mean, what just immediately springs to mind to me are bearing in mind the audience of EuroDIG, who are which includes users of the internet, and what happens in a situation of war on populations and their ability to communicate get access to information, for them to seek help if they're right in the front, in the war zone where there's military action taking place. How do you get hold of emergency services and so on? We all, in this day of reliance on internet services and information flows delivered by the internet, what happens when all of that is disrupted, even perhaps cut off? So I said in the chat there, access in times of war for populations in cities, rural areas, people are cut off from normal access to government administration and emergency services, police, and so on. And then, there's no internet access or very limited internet access. I'm sure this is a situation which is happening in Ukraine. We should start thinking about anticipating this situation, especially if this war continues and rolls out into other territories. There's a lot of political concern about that, extending beyond Ukraine into other countries. Ensuring resilience and informing people how to, what's going to happen when internet access is put at risk, and what happens to all the services, education, health, and everything. Isn't that going to be an important consideration for our conference? I mean, if you look at the experience of COVID, and we in the UK are looking at how did the government respond to COVID, and part of that is not just to apportion blame to ministers or whoever for key mistakes, but also the aim is to prepare us for another pandemic, which is going to come. How are we going to perform much better? So in the situation that we're talking about with war, how are we going to prepare populations who normally assume they can get all the information they need from the internet, when actually the internet is going to be in a different state? If this I guess I'm talking about resilience, that's a subtopic too. If the resilience of the internet cannot be secured. And then I also mentioned, I think Olivier was connecting with this as well, the domain name system. What happens, when territory is lost, and the National Registry has no role anymore, or is deliberately being shut out by the occupying force, and registrants are being forced off their country code arrangements into new ones being imposed by the military authorities that are occupying the territory. So, I guess, again, for this subtopic, you need somebody from ICANN or Olivier, maybe. You so much experience on this, I'm sure, to lead a discussion. Well, what happens, to registrants? Suddenly they find they're being told, get off your national registry and sorry, you've got to switch to another one. Is there anticipation of this in ICANN thinking? I have no idea. But, anyway, I've rambled on a lot, but I think those are, I'm coming back to my main point, really. Resilience, I think, is going to be such an important issue for so many people, users, emergency services, health services, and so on, in times of war. Okay, thanks. I'll stop there, Sandra. I hope that's helpful comment.
Yes, thank you very much. We have Olivier, you were first, but would you mind if I give the floor first to Olga and then to you?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
So Olga, and then Oksana, and then Uriel.
Thank you. Actually, now when I've had the comments of others, and I also double-checked this session proposal from Council of Europe, and that gave me another thought for probably this subtopic under the HOPE title. Maybe it would also make sense to address something related to hate speech and misinformation, and whether there are any approaches, tools, ways in which this destructive ways of sharing distorted information could be approached, and how we can deal with that in a way so that they do not lead to such consequences as war. Because even when we see that once some part of the Ukrainian territory comes under the occupation or under the siege, there is a lot of disinformation and propaganda being shared. So, and also maybe considering this recent UNESCO consultations on how to regulate the digital platforms, maybe that can be also an aspect which could be addressed. Overall, maybe something about how we can think creatively, and whether it is needed and whether it is helpful to approach this misinformation, hate speech, and things like that, so that we can somehow limit those extremely negative consequences, which led not only to some hate on social media or online, but also which lead to real life consequences of people actually being killed, tortured, and things like that. So maybe just as an idea for consideration for this HOPE subtopic.
Mm-hmm. So to summarize, under HOPE, you would propose good ideas on how to limit hate speech in order to keep the citizens informed on a real level. Is that what?
And whether some thoughtful can be there some thoughtful approach to somehow deal with this propaganda machine of authoritarian regimes, whether there is anything that can be done from the international community, from international institutions and organizations, whether there are any ways probably to support activists and digital rights defenders, whether there is any way to somehow again fact check and limit the dissemination of that information.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for clarifying, Olga. Okay, then let's give the floor to Oksana. Oksana, welcome. I hope you can speak up.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, but you should mute your other line. There is an echo. Could you try again?
Do you hear me now without echo?
Yes, without echo. All fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am extremely sorry for my delay. I just gave presentation at the RIPE NCC Open House regarding our new research project. It's about internet identifiers in time of war. This project was supported by RIPE NCC, and just 2 days ago, we completed the first part of our research. It was about end users survey, nearly about 2,000 of respondents in Ukraine responded to professional marketing agency, and we just received the first results. For example, 73% of respondents had huge problems with access to internet during time war in Ukraine. The next part of our investigation will be a survey of ISPs, LEARs, hosters, registrars, and so on. I hope it will be done in 2 months. I would like just to add some statistic information to have the matter to discuss.
Okay, these results of the surveys, I think there would be definitely a good contribution to our session. And my guess would be that could be under the focus area of resilience. Would you agree to that, Oksana?
Of course, yes. And we have some how to say case by case result just now, but I hope in 2 months we have statistic on this matter, and we will have much more information.
Okay. Oksana, would you be willing to participate in the org team of Subtopic 2 on resilience?
Of course.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oksana. And Olivier, and then Liliana, and then Uriel.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to be very quick. Just responding to Mark on a couple of points. First, with regards to the running of the top-level domain, which in the case of Ukraine is .ua, it is my understanding that in the run-up to the war starting, the registry made significant arrangements so as to be able to run this from outside Ukraine in case the worst case scenario happened. So it's interesting, but of course the political side to it being that, you know, a soldier turns up at your house and says you need to stop using the local top-level domain and use a different top-level domain. That's a very different way of doing things. With regards to the infrastructure resilience, it's interesting that for some parties it is good that the infrastructure is not working anymore, because you can continue with your propaganda through your official channels and block access from the population or access of the population towards more independent news. So it's again an interesting thing when it comes down to infrastructure. But of course, there's also another aspect which has taken place in Ukraine, which is Elon Musk's making available his Starlink network, which is the satellite-based communication that pretty much doesn't rely on any local on-the-ground infrastructure, and that's something that is a game changer in some ways, because those that in past conflicts might have been completely cut out from information now have a way to actually still be somehow connected to the internet. So certainly lots of potential discussions on the infrastructure resilience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Liliana, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So on 17th of March, I'm organizing an international conference about cyber integrity in the public administration, and we're going to discuss about the resilience and infrastructure needed as a capacity within the public administration. So as I mentioned in the chat as well, there is a spillover since the Ukrainian-Russian war, because the Western Balkan region has faced with many cyber threats, challenges, ransomwares as well. You are very well known with the case of Albania, ransomware in Montenegro, ransomware in our Fund for Social and Security Services. So many of the services were down, and people were not being able to get payments, specifically the health sector. And in the last five months, every day in primary and secondary school are receiving bomb threats. So kids are at home after 2 hours at school, and the schooling system is now even in question, the education services, etc. So let me just say that in 2 months, we're going to prepare a report about all of these happenings as a spillover from the war. And if you're interested, I can share the results, for example, with you beforehand, before the EuroDIG, so you can see whether if it fits your, let's say, agenda in this way.
Liliana, that sounds indeed very interesting, and I'm wondering, I think you're speaking about the focus area on resilience, in particular from the governmental side. Would you have the capacity to participate in such an org team and contribute with the results of this initiative you mentioned?
I would be very much interested in, because as I said, after this cyber integrity in public administration conference, we will be drafting the report and key messages that we would like to share with all stakeholders on a national level, and then to bring it out more on a wider level to discuss it, let's say, with the org team and internationally. Do we fit with these key messages in a wider thinking, because it's not only the capacity, but it's also how to bring the resilience with everybody else but the IT. So my main point is here to educate and bring the capacity to everyone but IT persons, because I already think that IT are already skilled enough, knowledge enough. So we need other people to be resilient in this area. So drafting the key messages after 17th of March for us, it's important to be shared with all the stakeholders here on governmental level. I already have the Deputy Prime Minister on board on this, because they just recently adopted a governmental decision for everybody to be like cybersecurity capacitated, at least one training passed in the next couple of months, because it's really tough, let's say, in all public administration services at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Yrjö, you're next.
Thank you, Sandra. Yrjö Länsipuro speaking. Yeah, I posted in a chat a case study by Internet Society, and the title is Ukraine, a role model for Internet resilience. It says a lot. And also, I think that this discussion shows that resilience is really a very important topic for us to talk about. Resilience in Ukraine, in other countries where the war is spilled out, resilience of the infrastructure, but also, I would say, the mental resilience. And here we come, of course, to questions of hate speech and disinformation and how to tackle them. I support Olga's suggestion that we take another look at subtopic 3. I think that what is there now written, I think that that's a little bit, that's another thing, so to say, and that we should focus here when we talk about hope. We should focus on the hope factors that relate to the war, the impact of the war, and those things like Olga said, so that let's keep that in mind for the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yrjö. Jon, you're next. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I would put a little bit of focus on the balance that we have to find there. We have to fight propaganda and disinformation on the one hand side, on the other hand, we have to protect our civil liberties and freedoms. And by only fighting propaganda, you can basically destroy not only the internet, but also a democracy. So we have to be sure that we have oversight regarding the measures that are being taken. For example, that we have transparency, how governments influence social media to take certain actions, that they don't abuse the power we give them here for other types of censorship that we don't want them to do. So we have to have some oversight. We have to find a balance and have to find a balance between restrictions that might be needed and freedoms that we have to protect, because it's the very freedom that we are fighting for. So it's not just by saying, well, we have to block as much propaganda as possible and then we protect our freedom. No, then we lose our freedom. So we have to be sure that we have transparency and oversight regarding those measures, those powers that we give to the governments in this respect, powers that we were not willing to give them before because we were afraid that they will be abused. And I think this danger is not over just because we have a war in Ukraine, but we have to be very alert in any kind of movement that goes into the direction of abusing these powers. So I think this is a topic that we need to discuss well, I think we can discuss it in the workshop too, but I think we should also keep it in mind when we talk about resilience and hope and also risk, because this poses a risk. And of course, resilience, those measures are needed to have resilience in the infrastructure. But I see them also as a risk factor regarding the freedoms that we have been protecting for years now, that there is a risk that we will lose part of them.
Thank you very much, Jan. Anyone else who would like to speak?
May I?
Yes, of course.
No, I would like to just echo what was just said, because this was a huge issue for the Council of Europe last year. We were working on a recommendation on combating hate speech. It had quite an ambitious objective, which was to be as comprehensive as possible. And we had a lot of preliminary discussions when it comes to restricting rights in order to have a safer internet, if we may summarize it like that. I think that in our intervention, I suggested subtopic 2 before, but I think we may also be able to point out at the risks or even the hope, because I mean, the recommendation was finally adopted by the 46 member states of the Council of Europe, which is a large number of European states. So there is some sort of also understanding of the importance, the relevance of the risks at stake. And on this recommendation, we will also build a very a study that will be published soon, which will be on the effective practices to combating hate speech in times of crisis, and therefore really looking at the war, but not just the weather. It was discussed before also the COVID, the impact that the pandemic had on information. So we could also maybe take this this sort of approach in either giving a human rights framework in discussing the issues that we have pointed out in our exchange today, or maybe giving some hope at the end towards some common agreement at states level about the importance to recognize the problematics and recognize how several actors should play a role, which are not just the governmental ones, but also the online platforms, the media, the political actors, and so on. Thank you.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Can I ask a question to Julia? Since you had long discussions about that, is there some kind of review of the measures being taken for COVID to review whether which measure was justified, which measure was doing well regarding disinformation, which measure actually pushed disinformation and banned real information, so that we have a critical review of the measures from the last the last crisis, where we were discussing how to deal with information and disinformation in a crisis situation. And now we have another crisis, and we are discussing about similar measures. And maybe we could have a review on well, how well did actually the last time the measures perform. Do you have something like this? Did you do a review on the measures and the justifications during the last crisis? I think this would be very interesting to know.
Well, thank you for this very pertinent question. I'm not aware about a concrete review of measures that were taken, but I would like to post now in the chat some relevant documents that were providing more of recommendations as to how to avoid this from happening and impacting the freedom of expression and to impart and receive information. I will post something in the chat, and I will stress again that actually a reply maybe to this question will be given in the spring when we will have the study ready on the promising practices. That will be the occasion in which we will have more specific examples.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, what I heard so far from you, and I try to summarize, is that I think we are all pretty clear on subtopic 1 risk, that this should really be a geopolitical discussion about the neutrality of the internet, not touching too much into the technical aspects of fragmentation. I also think we have some pretty clear ideas on the infrastructure resilience, which includes information to citizens, but also the resilience of a CCTLD and these kind of things. Also, Oksana said she can contribute with some very concrete outcomes from the study that is currently underway, or that was currently underway, as well as Liliana, who also said that there might be some very concrete outcome from a conference taking place. So I think we also have a pretty good idea on what we would like to discuss under resilience. And then under hope, I see there is a shift away from the EU candidate states and their integration towards to limit hate speech and the role of international organizations such as UNESCO, Council of Europe, etc. And the role of the actors in combating hate speech. Did I summarize this right, or did I get anything wrong? If I got anything wrong, then please speak up now, because we will then translate this into the revised version of the program. EuroDIG?
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, I think that what Mark has written in the chat about subtopic 3, I think that makes sense. That this hope part should be related to the risk and resilience part, and very much related to the question of impact of the war. So please read that in the chat. Thank you.
Okay. One point, when we were drafting the program as it is now, there was indeed some discussion about EU candidates, or how, to which extent non-EU countries are affected with their infrastructure. Is this something that someone would like to speak about or has an opinion on? There was only one suggestion so far, which is proposal number 50. But I do have the feeling that in particular for Eastern European country, there might be some aspects that should be discussed. Not sure if that should be under subtopic 3 or subtopic resilience. But are there any opinions on that one here in this call? Since I see we have quite a number of people from Southeastern European region. I see no hands raised. Please speak up if you cannot raise hand. Liliana?
Well, I really think that in the chat, the comment of Mark is really great and in a way describing what hope should address in a way, because we are speaking about, as I understand, the challenges we have in resilience and risk subtopics, and then maybe the hope should be addressing what we need as a contingency plans, measures to be taken, things to be, policies should be adopted, or what kind of initiatives could be, let's say, developed in order to be prepared enough, as you know, hope should be actually an action plan, hoping that we will not come to there, but then again, an action plan that will strive us to deal with the challenges that we faced in resilience and in risk, let's say, subtopic. Maybe not to say it like EU candidates or EU in a way to describe it whether we are candidates or non-EU countries, because at the end we are thinking about the impact of the war on a global level. You cannot just say like EU region, because there is a lot of, you know, let's say China involvement into the Western Balkans, in the Southeast, right? So it's kind of a global impact, but what we should do on let's say regional level or EU initiative, like, you know what my thoughts are. So let's shape maybe a bit the title of subtopic 3. I like the from the chat comment. I like the A and B as let's say titles, potential titles.
A and B, what Mark said in the chat, you
Yes,
mean, right?
Yes.
I put it on the record, the role of the internet in protecting communities in time of war.
Yes, maybe that one, yes.
And B is learning from current experience in Ukraine of what
well, we are all learning at the end, right? We are learning from subtopic 1 and subtopic 2. But then again, hope should be like addressing what we have learned, and we hope that we will address those with key measures and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I must say, and that's a very personal opinion, I also liked what you just said, speaking of an action plan in order to protect people and citizens in the future and to give them the right information. Action plan sounds to me a very forward-looking element, which I really like, actually.
Okay, that is a very direct, imposing, direct, right? Like very straightforward. What we should do, it's an action, hope is an action plan. Otherwise it's, yeah.
That could be something. Mark, you have raised your hand, please go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, thank you, Liliana and Sandra. That's what I thought. You know, it'd be good for EuroDIG to come up with some sort of, I don't know, conceptual package of, you know, this is what communities can do, you know, to survive war. And you know, it has to be worked out what this would comprise in terms of a plan. But I think it's, if only it would serve, I think, very positively to start people thinking. You know, we've been conditioned for so long in Europe without any prospect of war, but now it's right. You know, war is here, and our country's fearing you know, the war will spread to them. So some thinking within the European Forum on in the age of digital about what this means and how we can, drawing on the discussions in subtopics 1 and 2, how we can sort of present something that will help us in the future. I think it would be potentially a very fine message, and that will have, you know, it'll resonate across the world, you know, because there are conflicts going on, of course, all over the world that we but we're focusing on the one in Europe. So anyway, that's my thinking. Yes, thanks.
Would you be willing to contribute to that subtopic hope on this one?
Yeah, I would join a team. that's the invitation.
That was the question, yes.
Okay, I'll put my name down. Yeah, okay. For
Okay.
Subtopic 3.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yuri?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Yeah, I think we are on the right track here, because what is going on now is the first internet war in the history. You know, the Second World War and Korea were radio wars, and the Vietnam was television war and color television war, and now we have an internet war. The internet is actually, it has many influences on how the war is reported, the open source intelligence, how it is used, and so on and so forth. So I think what we need to do is to look at what is going on in Ukraine right now, and in subtopic 3, try to draw the conclusions for the future action plan, as somebody said. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, are there any other comments that you would like to make? Something that has not yet been brought to the table, but what you think should play a role in this overall main topic? Then please speak up now. Okay, if this is not the case, I continue to summarize. So I think we have a pretty good idea on the subtopics. I suggest that the subject matter experts will now come up with some new, very preliminary titles, and the Secretariat in parallel will set up the session pages so that the discussion on mailing lists can start rather soon. We will inform via our usual channel and also the submitter directly when this is possible. But I see we do have at least some people who would like to join these teams, and I have noted here on my paper that for risk we definitely have Olivier, but also Olga Kyrylyuk. For resilience, Oksana and Liliana agreed to contribute with some very concrete things. Council of Europe later on found his new place under the subtopic of hope, as well as Mark Cavell. This has at least 2 people from this call in my mind to contact, to follow up with. But of course, I would also invite all the others here on this call, and also to participate across the subtopics. What we will do in the course of preparation, we will come together in this bigger group of organizing team for the main topic, so that we indeed avoid of having a redundancy in the topics, but also to achieve that we really build on what has been discussed under risk and resilience, so that we draw the right conclusion under hope. Then this is really the new approach this year, and in order to achieve this, we have to meet in such a big group, not only once to initiate it, but throughout the course more often, where we then can update each other on what is out, what is next, and what should go in there. And of course, the teams are open, so I think we will see more people joining. Anything I got wrong, or anything you would like to say? My last call to you. Okay, if this is not the case, I thank you very much for your active participation. This room stays open because we will have the second call in half an hour, but we will stop the recording. Meanwhile, Rainer, if I understood it right, and the second topic, I think it's about internet fragmentation today, no, it's about the topic 3. We are discussing topic 3 next, but we stay in this room. And if you would like to continue on that one, you can also stay in the room or reconnect
And tomorrow we will then discuss subtopic internet fragmentation. Thank you very much. And Rainer, I ask you to interrupt or stop the recording. Thank you.